McGill, and I am the consultant and public speaker. Empowered Possibilities' mission is dedicated to empowering possibilities for individuals with disabilities. I created this newest venture because I see a gap between services and finding individuals' true potential. Because there are so many agencies out there, especially state agencies, that practically do the same things, and they tend to overlap and they tend to compete with one another. And when they do that, it tends to put a shadow on the person that they're helping. They lose focus of why they're there in the first place. So as a person with cerebral palsy, who is 33 now, I have dealt with many experiences and gone through many of the challenges that most families and individuals face when it comes to school, when it comes to employment, when it comes to living independently, and the struggles and challenges that come along with that, with limited resources due to private and public benefits. Many agencies and services that are out there do not give the real reality of what the person is going to face as they transition into adulthood. What may seem like a good benefit or service for them at that moment will affect their future of how they live while trying to still maintain those benefits. And I'll explain that as we go along. So the point of today is to launch my new website and my new business in consultation services, because I strongly believe that no one should be defined by their disability. We should be defined by our abilities. And the only way we could be defined by our abilities is through our actions. So with this said, my overall goal in creating empowered possibilities is to empower individuals with disabilities to live their best lives. And that is having access and equal opportunity to employment, education, recreational activities, and even social relationships. Empowered possibilities will help your individual discover their abilities and help them redefine their disability to be self-aware of their selves as far as their strengths and weaknesses. It's very important that the individual knows their limitations as well as their strengths, and how to build upon those weaknesses and turn them into strengths, especially when it comes to employment and when it comes to life skills. It's very important, especially when you're trying to access transportation, for example. You have to know your strengths and your weaknesses when you're traveling on different modes, because one mode may not work for one ability, but it may work for another person. So it's good to know everything about the different services that your county or state has to offer. Self-advocacy is another thing that I focus on with Empowered Possibilities, because I believe that a person needs to be able to communicate their needs and their wants, to be able to speak up for themselves, and especially when they're helping each other, when they're helping others with the similar disabilities as they have. it's good to have that support system in place. Also, self-determination skills is very important too, because it helps them have control over their lifestyle. Like, for example, to decide where they want to work, where they want to live, who they want to be with. Also, it gives them the empowerment they need to test themselves and their abilities. Because as parents, as caregivers, as we know that we can't always be there for them 24 hours. And they're going to face different obstacles in life. And that's the reality that we have to prepare them for. And I'm very fortunate that I had a support system. My family was very, very active in that role. They made sure that I strived for independence. They made sure that they treated me like everyone else. And sometimes they were too hard on me at times, but I understand why now, because it is different. This world is not made for people with disabilities. It's made for the able-bodied person. So we, as people with disabilities, we know how to adapt and we know how to survive on limited resources and overcome adversity as adults. Another thing that I want to ask everyone here is, what challenges do you face as a parent of an individual with a disability? And as a person with a disability, what do you face day to day? It's important for us to know what challenges we go through, so we could be able to help find the proper resources that may help you navigate those challenges better. So my favorite quote that I give to many parents and individuals is that we don't grow when things are easy. We grow when we face challenges in life. And empowered possibilities is creating real inclusion through two different types of trainings, as well as diversity inclusion trainings, as well as self-advocacy, leadership development trainings, life skill trainings. Employed to Empower is about pre-employment and workplace supports, helping them seek, find, and maintain gainful employment, whether it be part-time or full-time. It's up to the individual and up to the caregiver, because every person's ability is different. And then there's also breaking through barriers training, where I talk about various topics for agencies and individuals. So these trainings could be done in group or one-on-one sessions. I adapt these trainings and sessions to the individual's needs. I create goals, short-term, long-term goals. I meet with individuals and parents separately. If it's in a group setting, like in a classroom, I tend to meet with the teacher ahead of time and come up with topics that they would like for me to cover. For example, I talk about the Americans with Disabilities Act, the rights and responsibilities of a person with a disability. What are their rights under the ADA as far as transportation, employment, and telecommunications. I also talk about abuse and neglect and the criminal justice system and how it impacts people with disabilities. I also give disability sensitivity etiquette training for agencies as well as human resources departments. It's very important that they're aware of their role when hiring and helping a person maintain their employment. I help with skills like independent living skills as far as what they want to achieve and how to make those decisions, where they would like to live, where they would like to go, and stuff like that. I help parents plan for the future, what would be best for their individual, as far as should they be on SSI or SSDI or both, what happens when they are on SSI, what happens if they use services like VR and independent living, having the ability to explain what the med waiver is and what that entails and what that looks like in the future. I'm more about giving the individual and the families the right information from real experience, because a lot of these agencies have their own agendas that help them maintain their organizations. So not all the services that are provided are the best, but it's good to know which ones will help you achieve the best at that moment and in the future. So I try to give a full-size picture, not just puzzle pieces. And then once those puzzle pieces are scattered and you're already in the motion of transitioning the individual to adulthood, what happens if that person gets married? Or what happens if that person seeks full-time employment? What happens to the benefits that they already have? A lot of these agencies don't tell you the real truth behind it until it's too late. So that's where I come in. And I help guide you through that phase. Like I say before, life is a journey, not a destination. And as individuals and as families and as agencies, we all have a role to play in the individual's life. So it's not always going to be uppity up, and it's not always going to be down, down, down. It's just going to have to flow, and you have to learn how to adapt and overcome each of these challenges over time. So I try my hardest to educate the people around me about disability. I advocate, I help others to advocate for themselves, as well as, for example, like advocating to their legislators, advocating to councils, to committee members that make these policies and make these laws and guidelines that affect our livelihood. The thing that happens the most is that they create these laws, but they don't talk to the individuals that they impact. So that's very important when advocating, is to know your rights along the way when you are advocating for different population groups. And I also focus on empowerment, because I believe that everyone has a voice and it should be heard, and everyone is on their own journey, and we can learn from each other's journeys, especially when we have different abilities. Now I'm going to show you my website, and hopefully this will help you see what I'm trying to achieve. So the main tagline is breaking through barriers to independence, because there are a lot of barriers when you enter into adulthood. As an individual, as a child, when we're children, we get all the services we need. We get everything we need, through the state or through the federal government. But when we turn 21, 22 years old, half of that stuff goes away. And then what happens? Then most of us are stuck at home collecting a check. But there's people out there that don't want to do that, that want to get an education, that want to go to college or vocational school or some other type of school that fits their needs and abilities. And they want to contribute to society. They just don't know how to go about it without losing what they already have in place. So that's where I want to help people and guide them through that stage of life, I should say. This is a little bit about me. You could read further. I believe that abilities lead to possibilities. I believe that for example, in my life, I was told that I wouldn't be able to graduate high school, that I wouldn't get a college degree, that I wouldn't walk. I have not allowed cerebral palsy to define who I am. I've had 8 operations to get to where I am today. I was wheelchair bound. Teachers thought my disability was also mental because my physical appearance was very severe when I was young. I walk on my own with my cane in my house and my walker, and I also walk by myself without anything. I graduated high school with a 4.0 GPA in a ESC classroom and a regular diploma. I have a regular diploma. I started out as a ESC student and I mainstreamed over to regular diploma. So I understand those challenges as well with the IEP process. So I graduated with a regular diploma from high school, Everglades High. I have 2 degrees from Florida International University. And that's where I really, really started to discover my voice, because I had to tell my counselors and my teachers about my accommodations. I had to tell them what I needed to succeed in their classroom. And for many, that is hard to do, but there's ways on how to do that. So I graduated with 2 degrees, sociology and international relations. I also was married and divorced due to government benefits. And my significant other is on the autism spectrum as well, high functioning autism. So I understand that whole dynamic and the challenges of autism, but it's not, I'm glad to say that my significant other does not allow that to define him as well. He has a full-time job and he drives and he's a graphic designer. So there's many things that people with disabilities could do, and we're redefining what that is and what real inclusion looks like through the different experiences that we go through every day. The goal of Empowered Possibilities eventually is to empower individuals with disabilities to live their best life. In order to do that, we must be present and we must be able to participate in society for stigma and barriers to cease over time. It's not going to happen overnight, but it happens over time. Does anyone have questions for me at this point? Anyone? Okay. I believe in education, experience, and guidance, giving the individual and the person the proper resources that they need to succeed in whatever they want as far as employment, education, and recreational activities. I believe in advocacy through community and inclusion. Bringing awareness about the different disability issues through social media platforms is probably the easiest form for many of us with disabilities to use, especially during these times. But it could also be in person, because like I said before, every person has a different journey, a different experience, and it can help and change other people's lives or give them hope. I also believe in empowerment. I do this through motivational speaking and speaking engagements that I do to create positive change and helping others overcome adversity through the different challenges that they may face. So the different services that I offer are could be based on the client's needs, either in a group setting or a one-on-one session. What I do is I do a general intake. I take information from the parent as well as from the individual separately, so that I could get the big picture of what they want to accomplish as individuals. So, like, for example, a parent may want their child to achieve college, a college degree, and the individual doesn't know what they want to do for a degree. I would help pave the way with that and to see what fits their abilities, because what the parents may have in mind may not reflect what the individual may want. So basically, I come in and make a compromise as well. So it's very important. So I'm trying to focus on helping people create short-term and long-term goals and planning for the future. It's very important that we plan for the future, because anything can happen day to day, and it's better to be prepared than unprepared. And I have met with so many families that wish they could have been more prepared, especially when their individual is transitioning from childhood to adulthood. So I have experience with working with different diverse groups, not just people with disabilities, but at-risk youth, the elderly, veterans, you name it. I have experience in that. I also currently work for Ann Stork Center as an advocacy coordinator. So I am well diverse in connecting families to the proper resources that they choose or that they need. The services that I offer are all listed here. Customized planning, assessing your current situation, identify the best steps to take, and building long-term supportive relationships and services for your individual. I also provide individual supports. I assist your individual with advocacy, problem solving, decision-making, goal setting, and follow-throughs, and coaching on life skills, real life skills. So they're not just sitting there and writing out worksheets and doing adult day training. They're actually putting what I teach into practice. Referrals and resources, I identify and connect with the individuals and families to the proper public and private government agencies and services. I assist with the application process as well. And a lot of these agencies have lengthy applications to go through, and it takes time. And many of these applications take months, and follow up and follow through, and connecting with the caseworker and making sure that they have the proper paperwork in order. Because you can have it all done right, but if they mess up, it screws up everything for your individual and for your situation. And I've had that happen. So I know how to maneuver that. Employment supports. I help the individual seek part-time or full-time employment, what is best for their needs. I assess their skill sets. I see where I can build upon their skill sets. I help them figure out their rights and responsibilities. Let's say, for example, like during interviews, when to self-disclose, when not to, how to describe their abilities to future employers and HR departments, how to access accommodations on the job, what resources and services are there for that person while they're working and maintaining employment. It's very important that you strategize this out as an individual if you are seeking employment. I also help the individual with filling out job applications, because it can be tiresome, or it can be a struggle just having to fill out those questions pertaining to your disability, because a lot of us don't like to self-disclose, and some of us are more comfortable when self-disclosing, but others not so much. So I help with that as well. I also do trainings and workshops, and this is what I love to do. I tailor it to agencies and individuals, and I do employment diversity training. How can employers help the individual succeed on the job, and how to treat them, and how can coworkers support them on their journey through employment. I talk about leadership development, leadership styles, communication, how to use their strengths when it comes to leading and advocating for themselves. I do disability etiquette, what not to do, what to do to help an individual. I also focus on self-advocacy. It's very important. I stress that so much. I also do all different types of things. I do Americans with Disabilities Act. I do webinars. I create accessible presentations for different agencies, because a lot of our agencies that do these presentations and webinars, they're not really accessible, and I'm proud to say that I know the features and understand why we use them, so that we can not only help people with physical disabilities, but also the deaf population and hard of hearing and the visually impaired. So I help agencies create better PowerPoint presentations that are visual with captions and stuff like that, for example. So, and I have and here you could see the two different trainings and sessions that I do. They all encompass the topics that I talked about, but I'm creating, along with the trainings, a guide to employment for individuals and employers. So it's two separate guides. So it'll go through every step of looking at your strengths, looking at your weaknesses, creating goals for yourself, creating resumes, writing cover letters, to the struggles of when you get a rejection from an employer, how to handle that rejection and turn it into a positive result. I can tell you from personal experience that I'm still seeking full-time employment. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing today, because many employers that I've been to only want to see what they want to see, and they don't focus what's on my resume. They don't focus on what I'm capable of. So I decided that it's not just me that's going through this, it's other people too, and I want to help people get to where they want to be in life, because we all have the right to employment so that we could live on a decent wage, so we don't have to continue in this poverty cycle that keeps going around and around and around every year. We want to get out of that hole. We want to be able to own our own places, or rent our own places. We want security in life, because we know our parents are not going to be with us forever. And we want to be prepared for that time. And we want our parents to know that we'll be okay when they do pass on. So it's better to get prepared now than later. So that's what I'm trying to do for myself, and I'm trying to help others as well along the way. So if you know anyone that is struggling with employment, if you know any agency that wants to serve their individuals better and that needs training in these areas, send them my way and I'll be more than happy to help. And I do charge for what I do, but I work with the agency and I work with the individuals' families. I don't overcharge, and I actually want to see a good quality result from the trainings that I do. If I don't see that it's not helping the individual, I would either change or adapt it, or I would refund the money back, because that's what services should do. Not just take your money and put your individual somewhere or give them a few classes here and there and that's it. No, I'm here for the long, because I want to see your individual succeed. So not many services could say that. So Empower Media, I will have blog posts made throughout. Every week or so, I will have a different blog post that pertains to either a disability issue or what individuals are going through, or what resources for parents. I will also have empowerment videos and webinars and sessions to help the individuals that people can subscribe to. I'm looking at charging like a monthly fee or a quarterly fee, where individuals and families could access the webinars, and they could get like 2 free sessions a month. So I'm looking at different possibilities in that. I haven't decided yet, but I work with the families and individuals and what they can do as far as monetary needs are concerned. Because I know we're all struggling through these hardships right now, and my goal is to just provide the best quality service for your individual, and helping them reach their full potential. Not so much about the money. I don't really care for much about that. As I said before, I do speaking engagements. I believe in empowering abilities is important to building independence. I've spoken at different conferences over the past couple of years, national, statewide, and local conferences, as well as being on different boards and committees. So I have experience in helping people to build their self-confidence, their self-esteem in who they are. A little bit about me is that I overcame cancer last year, and that was a scary moment in my life, but it was also a positive moment because it made me appreciate more of what I already have and what abilities I have and the people around me. Never take life for granted because it could be gone in an instant. And you could use those type of different experiences to help others through their challenges. I also have faced abuse in the worst way possible. So I know that whole dynamic of how people with disabilities get taken advantage of. And I know how to overcome that, and I'm still overcoming that until this day. And we see that a lot in our group homes and our different places that individuals with disabilities live at. We see a lot of abuse and neglect from PCAs. But I'm not here to talk bad about those individuals that provide us supports, because not everyone falls into that category. One bad apple doesn't make everyone bad. So, but you do need to be aware of abuse and neglect and what are the signs and what to do if you're in a bad situation. Individuals need to somehow communicate when they need help, if they need it right away. It's also good for parents to learn the signs as well, because a lot of the people that neglect and abuse us are people that we know. And it's very unfortunate. So we got to be very careful and aware of our surroundings at all times. And then last but not least, my contact information is here. You send me an email and I get back to you within 24 hours to 48 hours. And then we start with the intake process, and we see how many sessions you or your agency need. And then we discuss any other situations and topics that you would like for me to cover or go through with your agency or individual, and we build upon that relationship. And it's not just a one-time thing. I actually follow up, see how you're doing, see how your individual is doing. So I do like a 2-week, 3-week check-in. I'm not like, I would like to do every week to check in, but I know families go through a lot and there's different challenges, and every moment that you have is precious. So with that said, I think that we all could play a part in helping each other to educate, advocate, and empower others with disabilities. And I appreciate you for taking the time today to listen in. And now I'm going to take questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to yeah.
I have a question for you. Tell
Yes,
me
Andrew.
about the development of your website that you walked through. Did you design it? Did somebody else? Did you work with collaboration? How long have you been developing the website that you're just showing us?
I did it all on my own. It took me a couple months over time to do it, along with my job. So I did this on my own. I'm still improving it. I know I have to put more accessibility features on it. I'm working on that. That's very difficult to do. It takes a lot of time. All the images, all the text, the contrasting, the readable features need to be on there. So
Thank you for doing that.
I'm working on it. It's not easy. And I think that's why a lot of employers and agencies don't do it, is because it's very time consuming, but they don't understand that there is a whole set of people that need this, and it'll make life easier for them, and it'll bring in new consumers and customers to their agency if they follow these guidelines. I myself am trying to get my agency that I work for to put these accessible features on as well. So it's 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 a process, but you have to start somewhere to
Right.
get it done. But if you have any suggestions, please feel free to email me, because that's how I learn, you know?
I will do so.
I learn from others too, you know? So,
May I have one more question?
yes.
Are there any specific training that you have done, let's say, over the last 5 years or 2 years to have prepared you to do the services that you're offering?
In my current role at Ann Stork Center, I'm an advocacy coordinator, and before that, I was a policy leadership fellow, and I had to go through lots of extensive leadership training and development training. I actually have a certificate in leadership skills and studies, and it also has prepared me. I work with government agencies like Florida Developmental Disabilities Council. I'm waiting to be appointed by the governor for that council. I've worked with transportation entities like Broward Metropolitan Planning Organizations. I've worked on a task force for the state of Florida. With Barbara Palmer from Agency for Persons with Disabilities. I know that process as well. I'm on the wait list myself. So I know all about that and what families go through with that. I've done almost everything, just in different capacities. So I think that's what's so hard for employers when I seek employment, is that they look at my resume and they see that it's so diverse with different skill sets that they can't just put me in one little category. Like I could do, for example, I have experience in community engagement, relations, marketing, development, outreach, advocacy, public policy, legislation, lobbying. So I'm very diverse in all those things because of what I'm doing today in the field that I'm in. Like I work under a Section 53 grant for Florida Department of Transportation for 4 years now. And that grant is ending soon. And I created the right-of-way program through that grant to help individuals access transportation, not just paratransit and fixed route, but on-demand services like Uber, Lyft, community bus, Tri-Rail, Brightline, commuter trains, you name it. I've done that, and my goal was to work on employment next for individuals with disabilities through my experiences. And I know through my experiences, there are a lot more people out there that are going through what I'm going through. I'll give you another example. Before I moved to Tampa in March, right before the shutdown. I had a full-time job with benefits, and they hired me, and but before I could sign the papers, the day after I got here, they gave me an email saying, due to COVID-19 and budget restraints, we can no longer hire you. Your job title is eliminated. So I was transitioning from part-time to full-time employment on SSI. And how do you do that? It's very tricky. And I've learned how to do that. And I want to share that information with parents, because it is possible to gain full-time employment and not lose your benefits during the 90 and 60 days, but there is a process. I believe that living off of 100 hours a month of working and only allowed to make 1,200 a month, according to Florida, the state of Florida, is not enough for a person to live on. So there's different ways on how to navigate that as well, and how to apply for different other government subsidies. So I'm more about helping the person transition into adulthood in a way that is not going to hurt them in the long run. So from personal experience and as a professional advocating for people with disabilities and for families and coordinating them to the right resources, I say I have plenty of experience in that. Am I having a 30th anniversary celebration? I'm thinking about doing like a virtual conference, having different speakers speak on the ADA and how it's impacted their lives. So I'm thinking of that. Maybe focus on employment in the ADA, and how it's improved over time, and where we still need to, where the areas of where we still need to work on. And how can parents, I'm reading your questions as you put them on the chat. How can parents and families and individuals and agencies help me get the word out about Empowered Possibilities? It's just tell them that I'm here. Tell them that there are people out there with disabilities that know the process, that understand the challenges that we all go through, and they have ways of doing it and making it work. And maybe you can try it out and see if it works for your individual. I'm not saying that what I'm gonna do for your individual is gonna be the number one thing, but you should be able to receive the proper and correct information and not just bits and pieces of it. Because trust me, I've been there, done it, and then some, and it's gotten me stuck, and I'm getting out of it. So I want to share that information with parents. So any more questions?
Yes, I got two more, if that'd be okay.
Sure.
Okay. Do you discuss financial planning with parents, such as special needs trusts, so that the child or an able trust now that's available through some states? Do you get into that at all?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But I also know people that I could direct them to that will help them set up a special trust or able account. I myself have an able account. Um, the thing about able accounts is it's restrictive as well. For the state of Florida, you can only save up to $15,000. After that, it's taxable. And you have to use that money for transportation, medical, housing, and life-sustaining activities. It can't just sit there forever. And if you don't have a beneficiary on that account, and let's say the person that dies, unfortunately, passes away, the money goes back to the state. All that money that you saved goes back to the state. Special accounts are very important. You have to make sure it's someone that you trust. If you're going to have a family member oversee that account, you have to make sure you have the proper agreements in place. And the special, what's the word?
Special needs trust.
Yeah, the special needs trust has to have special guards for the individual as well as the person that is giving the money out for the individual to live on, because there's a lot of abuse with that as well. A lot of people create fraudulent payments, and they tend to take advantage of the accounts and use it for their own necessities and not for the person. So you really have to put safeguards. That's the word I was trying to think of, safeguards.
Right.
Are you not in Medicaid payback anymore?
Well, I'm on SSI Medicaid, and I have a special needs trust.
I'm on Medicaid and SSI as well, and I have the ABLE accounts. I don't have a special needs trust.
Well, I'm too old, and my parents never officially had me designated disabled before the age of 22. So I got screwed. I can't do able account at all. So
Well, that's at least you have a special account. I know that there's different different guidelines, and especially when parents want to leave certain assets to their individual, like say a house or their life insurance, how that impacts SSI if you have it in their name. It's best not to have it in their name, to have it in someone else's name. I see a question about Medicaid payback or maybe Medicaid buy-in. The state of Florida does not have Medicaid buy-in. I wish it did. The only way that happens is if our legislators expand Medicaid. I see in different states that do have it, the percentage of people with disabilities that become employed go higher, and they're able to receive more financial stability in those states when they are employed due to Medicaid buy-in. So I am a supporter of that. You are able to get an ABLE account when you're 22 years of age. That is true. but it has to be a permanent disability. So it basically, the ABLE account goes by the rules of SSI.
Correct.
So if you are disabled after the age of 26 or 22, it doesn't count. So I've learned that too through other people. So I would like to say thank you to everyone that's listening in and that participated. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having it.
You all made my day special, and please spread the word of what I'm trying to accomplish and do for individuals with disabilities. Because we all have to be in together on this to educate, advocate, and empower others. So, thumbs up to everyone. Thank you. And have a wonderful day. And if you want to contact me, please email me at dmcgill, MCGILL, at empower, EMPOWER, PWD, people with disabilities.
I think you can post that link on the chat of your email.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And stay tuned for videos and webinars that I will be having in the future, and different training modules and so forth on different topics that relate to people with disabilities, especially during these times.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but your settings are such that Zoom is not allowing me to copy that to the clipboard on my Mac. That's a security setting, I think, that's preventing me to be able to copy that into my notepad.
Okay.
So just wanted to let you know that.
All right. If you send me your information, I'll send you all the information I have.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for listening in, and I'll have something for you in the future very soon. So please spread the word.
You carry on. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.